Hey, hello, good morning, and welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Showdown Strategy Show, closing out week one, little Monday Night Football action. Insane game last night between Baltimore and Buffalo. And then an overall lackluster, let's say, scoring outburst or lack thereof on the main slate yesterday. I'm Dave Loughran. That is my pal, Chris Spags. And we're breaking it all down. Chicago Bears, Minnesota Vikings, NFC North Showdown. What's up, brother?
Excited to be here. It's nice to get some football under our belts. It was maybe not so nice being up late, having that game actually matter. But, Loughy, I don't know if you stayed up for the whole game. The Bills fans didn't, though. They left bright and early, and Josh Allen had to chastise them after the game for leaving, which is not what I want out of my Bills Mafia. I want them there late, falling through tables, drunk off their ass, and they missed one of the greatest comebacks we've seen, this season for sure.
This season, you say?
I'll make that bold take. It's one of the best comebacks we saw this entire weekend.
Yeah, that's the craziest comeback since March. I went to bed. I was laying in bed and I was just watching on my phone. Sometimes I do that to just kind of, decompress a little bit.
Yeah.
I fell asleep, man. I fell asleep with 8 minutes left in the fourth. And then I wake, not intentionally, I just passed out. And then I wake up and I look, and the first Twitter notification is Adam Schefter being in case you missed it, Josh Allen and the Bills rally from behind and close it out. And I was like, oh shit, because I had Ravens plus 1.5, but it still worked out. They lost by 1, so that's good. But
yeah. They should have won that game, I think, pretty easily. To have the ball with a minute left and you have the possession, you could kind of run down the clock. And Derrick Henry fumble amidst him looking fantastic in that game. Derrick Henry, he has the most juice. He must be on all. I don't want to defame somebody right away. He must be on all the HGH in the world. He's so fast. He's so elusive. And he's 33 now? 32, 33?
It's the adrenochrome.
Oh, is that where we are? You're deep in the PEDs streets?
I think, well, no, adrenochrome is baby blood and baby adrenaline that the political elites, of course, have been, sucking them dry for years. You haven't heard these conspiracies. You haven't heard these wild conspiracies about that's how they stay young. Oh man, I'll have to send you some. It is highly entertaining stuff.
Oh, I'm sure you know the most out of anybody on a DFS channel. Actually, maybe not.
Comet Pizza, man, in the bottom of those dark cellars. No. He's insane, though. He's so good. And I tweeted this yesterday, and Pat McAfee had the better tweet. He was like, here's the obligatory, annual Derrick Henry's too big to run like that or to be that fast. It is true, though. And I'll never get sick of saying it because a guy shouldn't be able to have breakaway speed like that while also being able to throw you through the turf if you try to tackle him. I don't understand it, man. To me, he's the most exciting running back in football.
Just going through the numbers last year, and there's a few things that are kind of checkpoints for me to say this guy was good last year, this guy maybe not as good, but he was a plus EPA rusher, per rush, plus EPA per target guy, and also it's over a 20% avoid a tackle rate, which for a guy at his volume, at his age, at his size, it's a lot of things that you don't normally see come together. So definitely nice to see him start the season hot, even though the fumble's only going to make him angrier. Who knows what he's going to do in week 2?
It's a shame too when you had such a great game. That sucks. Anyway, glad to have you guys here. If you don't mind, take a single second this fine morning, atone for your sins, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and of course, leave a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. Try and read and respond to all of them. At the very least, read it. Those of you listening in podcast form, we see you out there. Appreciate you. You don't mind, leave a rate. I haven't said this in a long time, but if you listen in podcast form, leave a rating or a review or something like that. You know how I know people still do that, Spags? Because we accidentally uploaded my raw audio file from one of my recordings into Apple Podcasts. And it was basically just me screaming expletives every time I fucked up and met Ibuka's name. And I did it 8. I can say it now. I couldn't say it. And I'm just melting down, dude. Fully melting down. I know Joey's going to edit it. I'm sorry, Joey, that you had to see this and all that. And Jake goes ahead and uploads it to all the podcast files. So I get these DMs. They're like, dude, I'm cracking up. This is the greatest thing ever. I'm like, I don't remember making any, cracking any jokes that I would have found funny. Turns out it was just me crashing out for 10 straight minutes on the entire uncut file.
I mean, I could say as somebody that's done the pre-recorded videos in the past, you don't want that audio out there, not because you're saying anything bad. I don't think you're dropping slurs or anything, but it's more that like, I also go like, fuck you, fuck it. Like I'll chastise myself. Like,
exactly.
Get this right. Like, you can do this. So it would be really uncomfortable to have that out there.
In your head, it's easy. And then for some, it's also just some days it's not working. Like there's some days I can go straight stream of, if I'm stream of consciousness, I know you're the same way. You're never going to shut us up. Like that's easy. But if I've written out like a loose script and I want it to be good, that's when you can mess things up sometimes and it gets frustrating, dude. So,
and you mess up one word, you're like, I don't need to stop. But then you do stop because you messed up the one word. And it's a terrible game. People don't realize how hard our lives are, Loughy, when we do that.
Well, also, we're dumb because most people wouldn't notice these little tiny screw ups. But in my head, I'm like, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. Get it right. Like, dude, I can't, So anyway, let's get into it. Thanks for coming and hanging out, guys. Hopefully you had a better day than I did. Could have been good. Didn't end all that well. I was doing great up until, not great. By great, I mean like breaking even, which is great in week 1 for me. And then I had like a lowish owned Nico. He was terrible.
He was so bad.
Spags. Like I'm thinking, how many opportunities did they have for him to just get some points? Like, I didn't need him to do anything. Had Nico gotten me 10, I'm at least not bubbling, but min cashing these. Like the power sweep and the 100 milli was another one where I'm bubbling everything. All I needed was a little bit from guys like him and a few others where it's just like I didn't need much and you gave me nothing.
Yeah, Nico and Drake London were, I think, my biggest disappointments yesterday, besides Juwan Jennings, who hurt his shoulder, couldn't lift it. That's going to hurt me a lot in best ball, unfortunately, but really seemed like a situation, and sometimes it doesn't work out that way, especially Stokastic data, you guys know, with projections. And Drake London and Nico didn't really rise a ton for having no Darnell Mooney, for having no Christian Kirk for Nico, but in our brain, it's like, oh, well, somebody's got to fill in, like NBA DFS brain. Somebody's got to soak up that usage, and those guys did not soak up the usage, and it was not good with either guy, unfortunately.
London could have salvaged with that touchdown, though, that he dropped.
And he hurt himself, too, on it. So like a double
whammy. Dude, and then they came back out and scored. Yeah. I know. Oh, it was brutal. I thought Penix actually was pretty poised late in that game, for what it's worth.
Oh, he was slinging it, and he ran a little bit, too. Like, I still worry because he had so many injuries in college. Like, every time he takes a shot, I'm like, the knee. Like, he's slow to get up. But, he's looking good out there. Slung it. I mean, Bijan Robinson had one of the weirdest games, 100 yards receiving and an awful day on the ground, but it worked. He
basically split work with Algier. He had 2 more carries than Tyler. At one point in the game, it was 7-5 Algier. So it was odd. I did like a little, I'm going to start doing this after these games on Sundays where I just do like my instant reactions on Twitter. People seem to like it. So it was fun. It was like stream of consciousness for random teams and players. And I mentioned the same thing. On Bijan, also mentioned that Pitts had a couple at that catch late in the game, adjusted his body, cutting across the middle, pick up the first down. I thought Pitts looked pretty good yesterday, man.
Yeah, I think a lot of people out on Twitter, like a lot of the film bros, eyeball test kind of guys, that the sharper side of that, I feel like we're very enthusiastic about Pitts looking healthy for maybe the first time in the last few years. Certainly, coincides. What was that?
I thought he looked quick, like after the catch, kind of burst downfield.
Yeah, I mean, no Mooney makes things a little bit easier for him to get where he needs to go in terms of getting the volume. But I agree, like he looked fast for a couple of plays where he got to the sideline, and like really remember Kyle Pitts doing much besides catching and falling down the last few years. So any bit of juice I think is good because his offense looks fun.
Well, you and I could do this all day, so I'm going to have to pivot to this game. But like the recap would be fun, especially since we didn't even talk about Rodgers and Fields. I will say one last thing to you, because you'll probably think I'm insane. My biggest stack in best ball this year, like by a significant margin, is Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson.
Me too.
Really?
I was surprised
no way.
Garrett Wilson kept falling so much. Yeah.
I thought we would be on total opposite pages of this. That's sick.
Well, it's a clean target tree. They looked great. They looked so good yesterday.
How happy were you to see that bomb towards the pylon early in the game against a good second? When I saw that, I was like, there might be something here.
Well, I mean, to tie it back to the, what we're going to talk about today, I think it shows what good coaching can do. Like last year, Fields to me was a league average QB. Arthur Smith schemed him to be the most accurate he's been, maybe a little bit better than league average on that respect. And then you have the Lions coaches coming here, Tanner Engstrom, the former passing game coordinator for Detroit, who maybe they should have promoted him instead of bringing in John Morton. But like, smart coaches put guys in position to succeed, and sometimes it doesn't work out. Shane Steichen, former Eagles guy, was so great in the Eagles, didn't work out for AR quite as much as I would have hoped. But Fields, I thought like they protected him well, got him in position to succeed. Garrett Wilson had a lot of juice, got him into space a lot. It was really an encouraging thing, even though the Jets still probably going to win like 5-6 games here.
I bet the over on their win total too. I think they're going to surprise. But
I hope so.
Yeah, I'm with you. That was a good breakdown. I also like that when the pocket did collapse, because Elijah Vera Tucker's out for the year. That's a big one. He would step up and make the throw instead of panic, which is something you haven't seen Fields do before. Now I just need my boy Mason Taylor to start to develop a little bit, and we'll be in business. All right, let's get into it, man. Chicago Bears. And by the way, thank you guys for indulging us in that. It's week 1. We're going to do a little bit of a recap. Yeah, and agreed. Katomi, Rodgers looked awesome. He looked awesome.
He was playing angry. I mean, he said after the game he really wanted to take it out on anybody in the Jets organization. So he did it. More power to him.
He certainly did, man. It's fun game, best game, lowest total of the slate at 37.5, and then ended up having like 68 points or whatever, 66 points or something. So this game, not a particularly high total, right? But you're still looking at a NFC North battle between a rookie head coach, number one. Rookie head coach in Ben Johnson, and also a quarterback who, rookie last year, but making his NFL debut in the regular season. The Bears are plus 1.5 at home, which honestly, I don't think that's because of McCarthy. I think that's because you have Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores going up against the rookie head coach Spags. But it should be a competitive game. I want to start at the quarterback position with you, and we'll work our way through it. See where you're at here, because we've got J.J. McCarthy making his debut. There's no Jordan Addison through the first 3 games, right? I think he suspended 3 games.
Yep.
Right? But you still have Justin Jefferson. Assuming that Hammy's good to go, he's a nice guy to have on your side if you're a quarterback. T.J. Hawkinson should be back to 100%. And then you've got Aaron Jones, Mason in the backfield. They certainly have some guys. But what do you make of McCarthy in a spot where, if we want to be like fully honest, this secondary, when healthy for the Bears, assuming Johnson and Gordon play back there, it's a good secondary.
Yeah, and I think, with what J.J. McCarthy showed, I'm a big believer in what guys show their last year in college is pretty close to what they're going to show you their first year in the pros. For McCarthy, he didn't play it all last year, so we saw a little bit in the preseason, didn't get much of a read on what he could do. In Michigan, he didn't drop back a lot. He had 23.5 dropbacks per game, which is about 13 less than what a Caleb Williams had, 15 less than what a Drake May had in that same class. But he was very accurate, good catchable ball rate, high EPA per dropback. 0.34 EPA per dropback if you guys care about college data. So he was very efficient in that stuff. The big thing though is when you have a low amount of dropbacks in college, it's what are you going to do in the pros? You're not able to necessarily handle the volume of dropbacks. We don't have a read on what you do at massive volume. And the Michigan offense, a couple of years ago was really conservative. It still was last year as well. Really kind of protected him from himself in a way that I don't really know what he can do in a Kevin O'Connell offense that we saw Sam Darnold be pretty wide open in last year. For the better in the beginning part of the year, for the worse at the end part of the year. I would think McCarthy is going to be relatively good, but I don't know that they let the governor off of him. I don't know they let him go wild in terms of throwing. So I think the talent's there, but for game 1 against, like you mentioned, a pretty tough secondary and a team last year that was pretty good despite all the flaws for Chicago, a negative 0.02 EPA per dropback allowed, which is a good number, negative 0.03 EPA per pass allowed. They weren't an awful defense. They were a pretty bad offense. So I think for McCarthy, I don't expect the ceiling here. I know the sim is giving you some captain lines from McCarthy up top. It spooks me a little bit because I just don't know that he has the massive upside. I kind of think he's more in that Kenny Pickett range where he's going to give you maybe 15, 20 fantasy points if things really work out. I don't see 25, 30 happening.
I don't really see it either in this spot. Would I feel potentially different, or could I potentially feel different if they're missing, multiple guys in that defensive backfield, multiple starters? Sure, that would suck. That would suck. TJ Edwards is out, but or not expected to play. Might be out already. But either way, like I think those two spots, Jalen Johnson, we know how good he is. So if he's out, does it help? Sure, it helps McCarthy. Absolutely. If Gordon's out, does it help? Sure. But if they're both playing, I'm not a huge fan. Now, I'm getting in my Sims run, Spags. I don't know what you got. I ran it in the contest generator at 50,000. I got 8% McCarthy at captain. I got a lot more Caleb Williams at captain, whereas at 25% almost. Whereas in the flex, I got around 50% of both of these guys, which, to be fair, it's basically matching the field. So like the only guy I'm seeing right now that we're getting overweight to would be Caleb Williams. We're overweight about 5% at captain, but that's actually it.
Yeah, I got a lot of McCarthy and Williams in the flex. I got more McCarthy at captain than you did, and I think we ran our Sims at the same time, so a little bit confused by that one. But I got 15% McCarthy at captain, so a little bit above the field's ownership there. But I think it comes down to, for a Showdown slate, and you guys, I'm assuming most of you watching the video, you've all played a ton of Showdown. The QB points projecting a little bit higher on this slate as well. Chicago, you don't have anybody on their side projected for 15 fantasy points besides Caleb, so he's going to come in naturally. For the Minnesota side, you have Jefferson above 15, but besides that, it's only McCarthy. So it is a spot where the QBs project appreciably better. You have kind of a lot of timeshares / split target shares expected for many spots here other than Justin Jefferson. So I think the projections, I get why it's coming up a lot, but I do think that's something where if one of these QBs fails pretty meaningfully, whether it is Caleb, whether it is JJ McCarthy, you're going to be away from the field if you don't play that guy in a certain amount of lineups. So I get why they come in, but I think if the game script goes where one of these guys busts entirely, half the fields or more than that's going to be probably screwed.
All right, I want to talk about Caleb. I'm actually, believe it or not, very excited, probably for the first time in his career, to talk about Caleb Williams here. Here's why. They bolstered this offensive line. And look, we can say whatever we want. I know you would agree with me that it was there was a combination of issues in Chicago with the offense last year, right? You had a terrible head coach, number one, just top down made things very difficult. He made poor decisions just on a top down team basis. But then their offensive line really struggled. There were times I'm watching these games and Caleb Williams simply had no time from the moment the ball was snapped. They go out, they grab Joe Thuney, they grab Drew Dahlman, two of the preeminent offensive linemen in the league. Like, assuming that, these guys gel out of the gate, that could be huge. Now, Brian Flores, look, we know he can throw some crazy looks at young quarterbacks. He's going to blitz a lot, but Caleb Williams, if I remember correctly, actually wasn't that bad against the blitz last year. So am I misremembering? I thought he was actually decent against the blitz last year.
When he saw pressure, he had a negative 0.8 EPA, which would be towards the bottom part of starting QBs. So, pressure can mess up guys in a lot of different ways. He didn't take a lot of sacks. He had under a 3% sack rate when getting pressured. So I think that's probably where, there was some success.
I was using a PFF grade, which obviously take it with a grain of salt, but like 79 overall against the blitz. So that's not bad for a rookie quarterback.
No, and he dances around in the pocket. I think really the big flaw with him is that sometimes he dances around too much. Quick tangent. Did you see that hit piece that came out about the Bears from Ty Dunn, who's one of those blogger guys that's been around for a while? There's like a really big Substack hit piece that came out last week on him that like buried him entirely. Said he threw Thomas Brown, who took over when Eberflus got fired last year, like was just ignoring him on the sidelines. He apparently was really lazy last year. It was like a really weirdly timed one. It came out right before the weekend, but just like a total submarining of what Caleb did last year.
Really? Yeah. I did not see that, but I remember one from earlier in the year where there was conversation of where there was some rumor that, remember, it was like Caleb Williams and his dad said if he gets drafted by Chicago, he'll refuse to play or something like that. And then he came out and said that wasn't true. Yeah, it appears that some people are out to get this fella.
Yeah, and there was also in that same Caleb Williams hit piece, it was, again, by a guy named Ty Dunn, if you want to look it up, Tydunne.
What publication
like Polls was apparently also like mocking Drake May in video. And he was like, look at this asshole kind of stuff. Because he like wanted Caleb the entire time. And the front office was just watching videos ripping Drake May, even though you could argue he was better than Caleb last year. But yeah, it seems like a weird situation there. If Chicago, if they fall flat on their face, I feel like a hit piece like that would be like, oh, you saw the signs coming. But I believe in Ben Johnson so much. I'm hoping he browbeat him well enough this year.
Was it? I saw one article last week that was talking about how like how bad, how terrible, and how like now they've now exposed how terrible the Bears draft process was with Caleb Williams. I saw that one. I believe in Ben Johnson too. What do you think of that? This one of the biggest surprises to me yesterday, and we could go through a laundry list of them though, was how much the Lions struggled offensively against the Packers. I mean, I did not think they would come out and get flattened like that.
I mean, I think Ben Johnson is a boy genius. I don't know if he's a grown man, but a young man genius. I think he's really good at what he does. And I do think that is one thing that teams do tend to underrate. You bring in kind of a career journeyman coordinator like John Morton, who was with the Broncos, an offense that didn't really light the world on fire last year. They protected Bo Nix well, but didn't, I think, run an offense that's portable over to what Detroit does. Not surprised by it, but Ben Johnson, what we saw in the preseason, I mean, Caleb looked as sharp as he has. He's getting the ball out fast. He wasn't doing the tiptoeing, the Fred Flintstone bowling, twinkle toes in the backfield stuff that he does a lot. He's getting the ball out, and the blocking was good as well. A guy named Ian Wheeler, who I don't even think is on the roster anymore, went for a 2-touchdown game, had wide open holes, certainly playing against second, third teamers, but there were good things that the Bears showed. So I would want to believe more on the Ben Johnson side and want to believe more on the Caleb side. It's just this Minnesota defense for the first matchup is like not where you want them to have an easy run out.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. They do have weapons though. I mean, there's no shortage of weapons anymore in this offense. I'm kind of interested too in DeAndre Swift because you have Ben. Also, he was with Ben Johnson in 2022. Ben Johnson's first year as the Lions offensive coordinator was with DeAndre Swift. Guy averaged almost 30 receiving yards per game on 5 targets in the 14 games he played. I say that because I grabbed over 14 and a half receiving yards for DeAndre Swift today. Hey, those picks are all free on Tails. By the way, you should use that link in the description. Free. Come hang out and tail it all season long. Spags, we should get you over there. It's pretty fun, man.
I have just dropped packaged for best ball, but I didn't do enough with it because it's hard to promote. It's hard to promote.
Yeah, it is. I just, I come in and I say, you know what? Like I post plays when I want, and they always show up there before they do anywhere else, and they're free, and we have some fun with them. That's all. I got a big 50% Bet365 super boost today. So dude, if you're not taking advantage of these massive boosts that these books do, you're crazy. It's basically like the most plus EV spot you could do all the time. So do it. But anyway, I like Swift here, and I don't know where you're at on guys like Menangai and Roschon Johnson, assuming he's out there today. But it does feel like you would think, at least early on, that Swift is the clear third down back and should get plenty of work on the ground as well. Am I wrong there?
I would certainly hope so. DeAndre Swift, another guy, if you watch the Stokastic best ball streams over the summer, I'd take him a lot in drafts, a big believer in what he brings to the table here. I don't think I've ever thought he was as special as the markets do, where people really love DeAndre Swift, thought he's going to be a game-changing back. But I think with what we saw from him in Philly and saw flashes of last year's, he's a guy who's pretty good if you give him opportunity and he gets good goal line work or red zone work, and at least some red zone work, as opposed to when he got everything siphoned away by Jamal Williams the last time he was good with Ben Johnson. I think that's where the upside is. For this team, Roschon Johnson has been hurt in training camp / preseason for like a month. He's a questionable guy right now, but I'm not sure if he plays. Monin guy, not a special prospect. And, granted, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, also a 7th round pick. And we saw him look somewhat good in the amount of touches he got yesterday. For Monin guy, I just don't see that level of juice. He didn't play great competition either. I don't know where that's going to come from, though. Ben Johnson seems to have trusted him. I just don't see him getting meaningful work. So Swift, I agree, potentially a bell cow back, I think rises with the tide of this offensive line that Loughy talked about being so improved. And again, I was encouraged, like the fact they could block for guys who have no juice, like an Ian Wheeler type in the preseason. I would hope bodes well for them blocking well for DeAndre Swift. So I'm in on him. I think he's a good play. I just worry about the Vikings defense for pretty much every part of this offense, because they are, to me, one of the best defenses in football last year.
I don't disagree at all. Here would be my only pushback to that, right? We only have one game and 2 teams to talk about. So, like, if this were on a main slate, you and I are going, yeah, you know what? kind of a tough spot to like anybody, really love anybody at the most for Minnesota or for Chicago. But it feels the same way for Minnesota too. Like, this isn't to say that you're not going to play Justin Jefferson. Obviously you are, but it's not the greatest matchup for him either. You know, I think both of these defenses could be good this year. I kind of do believe that this Bears team retooled a little bit on the O-line, quality enough defense. I'm not saying they're a Super Bowl team. I'm not necessarily even saying they're a playoff team. What I am saying is I think they'll be a tough out each time you play them. I think the Browns are going to be a tough team to beat if you've got the defensive line looking like that. That doesn't mean I think they're going to win a lot of games, but Myles Garrett is a fucking freak, by the way, dude.
Yes.
He's
great at basketball too. He could dunk. He could dunk like windmill tomahawk dunks. Like you do a lot of things for a guy that's that large.
Who was the Bucks lineman that jumped out of the pool? Was that Tristan Wirfs?
That might be it. I know what you're talking about. I remember the video, but I don't remember who it was.
He jumped out of like the 4-foot spot with water, like onto the side. One of the most. These guys are freaks of nature. They're incredible. But anyway, what I'm saying is I don't think either side. You're just pointing to spots that look amazing. Are there? Forget it. I'll go out of order here. Are there any? What's the most exploitable spot you think there is from a skill player's position on this game or in this game?
I would say for me, I mean, the Bears last year, and I don't know how much this carries over year to year. Bears played played zone defense, at a pretty high rate last year, 62% zone rate. So I think for Jefferson, really brave take here. I think Jefferson's in a pretty good spot. He's really the only guy that can get open on the seam versus zone. So I think he's one guy I would say gets a benefit from it. To me, more when I see a tough defense, it just kind of skews how I play. A 20 lineup set. If I'm doing 150, though, usually for a Monday showdown, I'm doing a 20 max, putting a few into the Millie Maker and a few in other tournaments. I just think when the defense is like potentially really good, it skews how I play stuff. Where I'll play some more. If Minnesota's defense is really good, I'll play some more Minnesota onslaught stuff. I might play the run game more as opposed to kind of expecting a wide open game. So that's sort of my concern for Chicago is I think they can be wide open if they're playing whatever shitty defense we'll see this year. Carolina, probably the worst defense we saw yesterday. If they're playing Carolina, I think they light it up. Against Minnesota, I think they end up playing it more close to the vest, less freewheeling. And I think that's where I worry about the offense a little bit overall. But, you're right. There aren't great matchups in the game overall, and we have to play guys.
Man, Carolina stinks, huh?
They do. It makes me sad because I thought Bryce flashed last year. He was like the 10th best QB in touchdowns on the stretch. It's like, at least that's something. And he was just back to not seeing over the line, some real stupid passes. It was kind of tough to watch yesterday.
It was. I got my over on Jatavian Sanders receiving though, and that was close. But
not over enough, I'll tell you. As a guy that took him every time in best ball, because I'm like, he's young, he's good. I took him over Juwan Johnson a lot late at a certain point, and I'm like, oh no, he did not look like that guy.
Juwan Johnson was in the Millie winner yesterday.
He's got paid so much money in the offseason. Just follow the money, by the way, for the people in the
Seriously,
future.
right?
$10 million plus a year for a guy that wasn't even that good last year. The Saints want to use him with the new regime coming in, but yeah.
But not Swift. When I look at the running backs, I'm going, all right, well, you have Swift, you have Jones, you have Mason. If you wanted to, let's assume that Roschon Johnson plays. Monangai, does he play? Does he get work? Probably. The amount that we have to him in the flex, Spags, this is probably the most surprising thing that I'm seeing as far as any of our exposures go. We have 46% and I'm almost wondering if something is just not right here. That is an incredible amount of him.
Yeah. I got 40% Fields at 5 in the flex for Monangai. It seems, 5.3 fantasy points for Monangai feels like an aggressive projection to me. We got Roschon on the Stokastic data for 5.1. So it's not like they're even giving, Monangai that big of a lean. Frankly, both projections seem a little bit high. That's an expectation of 10 RB points that don't go to Swift. Swift himself projected for 13.3. And the projection team crushed yesterday. Like Daniel Jones, I think Stokastic was really the only site that was really pushing him aggressively in the sim data. And I do check competitor sites as well, just kind of get a read on how things go. So I don't ever want to critique the data team because they crush and they sometimes see stuff that we obviously don't. It's the point of having a data team. But Monangai, I don't see that projection being that high, and 2,800 too. It's not even like he's $200.
You know what killed me yesterday, man, was I had a lot of Jonathan Taylor. And I sometimes I will say process over results. I felt like the process there was spot on, and I got punished for it. Like, he played every snap in the first half. He had 17 carries to get in 0 until the blowout ensued. And then Giddens comes in and just gets like 12 straight carries and scores. And I'm sitting there with my head in my hands. Like, you were easily staring down the barrel of a 120-yard and a touchdown game from Jonathan Taylor. Instead, he cedes all of that work to the rookie in a blowout because Miami is abysmal.
And loses 2 rushing TDs to Daniel Jones too, which is
right. Those are 2 more. You're right.
Yeah.
He did, at least with those, though, it's hard for me to say anything because he was given the first chance, like inside the 5, to get in on those, and he just didn't. But he would have. Like, there's no doubt he's scoring there if you give him the chance. That killed me, man. And then James Conner, I think the Trey Benson thing may be real, and Benson may start getting a lot more work sooner than later. He had that big 52-yard run yesterday. Conner, outside of that, cute little shovel pass touchdown, he did not look very good.
No, and it's a bummer because he was so chalky. Really, all the chalk backs yesterday were disappointing to some extent. I guess McCaffrey, the would have been chalk, got 35 touches or whatever it was, and he would have worked out well, but everybody else wasn't that good. Yeah, Benson, I'm with you. Like, and that's a different C. Like, I don't think Monangai has juice. Roshan at Texas, I thought graded out a little bit better than he showed in the pros so far, where he's had no shiftiness. But, like, these guys behind him behind Swift don't really have, to me, meaningful amounts of juice. Whereas some of those are situations like Giddens does have some, upside, even though he didn't play really, like Loughy mentioned. They're not, I just think this backup situation is just not one that I think is particularly talented, and that probably bodes well for Swift.
Do you want to know Harry, how about this? I'm going to give you this, and I want you to get your thoughts on this. I think this will be helpful for our viewers as well, and see where you're coming in on this. Look at the rushing plus receiving today. So for the running backs, of course.
Okay.
Aaron Jones is at 74.5, some spots 70.5, 71.5. So not really consensus here. 73.5, 72.5 on Swift. So these guys are really just neck and neck with the way we're seeing the props shake out. And if you're talking about salaries, Swift is 8,800 in the flex. Aaron Jones is 7,400. So naturally, you would think you'd get more to him just based on that alone. But you don't have rushing props, or you don't have rushing plus receiving for anybody else. And even if you look at rushing yards on this slate, you have nothing for Monangai. You have nothing for Roshan Johnson, assuming he plays. You just have 37, 39.5 for Mason, 49.5, 50.5 for Jones, and then 52, 53.5 for Swift.
Yeah, I mean, the Mason part, I think, is the most fragile part of that. I guess that's more for touchdown equity than anything. Mason, they've brought in basically to be the red zone back to some extent. I think a large trend, and it's something I've talked about a little bit in content, but I think it's pronounced when you look at things like the Brian Robinson situation. The focus in the NFL for a lot of teams is having multiplicity at running back, where it's not completely threadbare who's going to be out there. Where, like, if you're out there with Tyler Algier for Atlanta, usually that means it's a run play. If you're out there with Jordan Mason last year for the Niners, it meant it was a run play. They want to have the ability to show run or pass. And I think that's where Aaron Jones, to me, has the most utility. Like, the fact that you can show he's a credible enough runner, definitely wasn't as great in those kind of short down and distance kind of situations as a Jordan Mason should be. But I think in this situation, you want to have the flexibility to show both. So I like Aaron Jones a good amount. I like the running backs in this game overall, but I would say if I had to choose between Aaron Jones and Swift, I would favor Jones, because I think Minnesota will get him the ball in really creative ways, but also the PPR point should be there. Swift, I'm not sure, like, they'll be there to some extent, but I would say Aaron Jones to be the best RB in the game, or my favorite RB in the game.
Me too, but it's a price thing. It's not like I think him and Swift, and you know what, the props would bear this out as well. I think these guys look very similar today. I actually think Swift is more projectable than Jones, though, right now. I don't know what Mason's role is going to look like. And I think it's fair to say we don't know what Monangai or Roshan Johnson's roles are going to look like. I think it's a little bit clear, but also I'm with you, because Aaron Jones' price is essentially, what is he, $1,400 cheaper than Swift in the flex?
Yep.
You look at the rushing attempts props here, and they're 12.5. Swift is like 1 or 2 higher, but then you look at some of these other things, receptions and all of that. They're all going to be pretty similar, man. They're going to be pretty similar. Jones 2.5, Swift 2.5. I like the over on Swift. If you're getting plus money on 2.5 at plus 115 for DeAndre Swift, I'd swoop on that pretty quickly. But I'm with you, and I think the projections similarly, or I'm sorry, our Sims would say much of the same. You have Aaron Jones and Swift, both were getting 33, 31% exposure at the flex position. Jones 8% at captain, 5% with Swift. Are you a little bit surprised that we're getting only that much exposure to these guys, whereas we're getting more of these other guys? This Manon guy is going to come down. I would be shocked if it doesn't, Spags. I'm convinced it can't stay that high.
Yeah, I would think the Monin guy definitely stands out like a sore thumb. I mean, just to quickly for the people out there, because you can't see the screen I'm looking at, like the flex position, it's McCarthy up top, Caleb, Jefferson, then Monin guy, then it's Aaron Jones, Swift, Odunze, DJ Moore. I mean, maybe the price point works particularly well. I'm actually going to sort by salary to see who's around Monin guy. I mean, Zacchaeus, I would take the shot at 2K over him. The sim does not seem to like Zacchaeus at all, only 7% exposure that I got in the flex, but Fields at 17. Josh Oliver, not a fun play, but he could be out there to block, maybe catch a touchdown. He's a little bit cheaper than Monin guy, but it seems like it's mostly the price point. And I guess Roshan being at 3K, I would certainly try to flatten out if this number held. It's 40% Monin guy in the flex compared to 7. Those guys being the same price point, I would just play Monin guy and Roshan equal amounts.
I'm looking at it now. We're projecting Swift for 13.3, Manon guy for 5, and Roshan for 5. So like an even split there. We'll see how this adjusts throughout the day, Spags. But yeah, I think it's a very unique situation where, I mean, if you were to play him, you're going to have massive leverage over the field. Where are they coming in on the, let's see. Can you guys see this? Yeah, there we go. The top single game and showdown plays tool is a valuable one for us. Let's see. Utility ownership on Manangai is 4.4, and we have him 4.8% optimal, or where's his utility optimal? 1.8. Now that's got to come down. If we have him at 1.8 optimal, Spags, in the utility, and essentially, 0.1 optimal at captain, I have a tough time believing that stands throughout the day.
Yeah, I mean, I see it's a lower projection for Zacchaeus right now at 4.9, and that's kind of surprises me. Like Luther Burden should pass Zacchaeus as the year goes on. But Zacchaeus was like in the Amon-Ra role that people have been looking for in a Ben Johnson offense, playing largely out of the slot in the Bears preseason stuff. I would easily take Zacchaeus a similar amount to Monin guy, if not more. Again, Roshan, if he's active, I think he's been the lead back or the number 2 back behind Swift for enough time now. And that's, they cut Travis Homer or put him on IR. They didn't add anybody else there. Like Roshan, I would think, is ahead of Monin guy. Again, never want to like go against the Sims too much, because it surprised me how frequently the Sims does something. And I'm like, oh shit, I was totally wrong about that. But I agree with you. It's got to move a little bit. And I think flattening out Monin guy, Roshan, Zacchaeus, Josh Oliver, and other guys vaguely projectable, I think would be more the move in exposure.
I'm going to rerun it too, since we still have some time here. I do want to know though, what do you plan on doing, and what are your intentions with Spags? Let's say some of these backups, like Mason, Mananga. I know we talked about him, but realistic expectations. Roshan Johnson today. There are actual backups in this game that could get some work. Are there any spots that you find valuable today, given the price points?
I think Mason is the most appealing option. I do wish that he were a little bit cheaper, because it seems like he's kind of priced to be, in a dead even timeshare with Aaron Jones, and I'm not sure that's going to be exactly the case. But I think he's easily the most appealing. The issue is he's twice the price of the Bears backup running backs. But Mason, I think, works to me in lineups where you have Aaron Jones probably not at captain, I would think. But if he's in the flex, I think they can score touchdowns, score points in different ways, where Aaron Jones getting there through PPR against a really aggressive Minnesota defense that Loughy very astutely in the beginning of the video blitzes at an incredibly high rate, 39% blitz rate by Minnesota last year, which has always been a staple of Brian Flores defenses. This is a team that should come pretty aggressively after Caleb. That opens up or, excuse me, I'm mixing it up, but that should help Swift out a little bit. So I think he looks good as a starter. But for the backups, really, I think Mason's the only one where it's like this guy might have a real role, whereas Monangai and Roshan, I think they're splitting a partial role. And your best hope is that maybe that guy becomes the goal line back and does their impression of Jamal Williams in Detroit. But I don't think that's a guarantee as opposed to, Mason, who's absolutely going to be getting, I would say 1-2 red zone touches if they're there.
You would think so, yeah. And you've got, we're going to move to receivers here in a second, but I do want to let you guys know this is the final day to take advantage of these monster promos that we have for NFL. Look, if you didn't get in until now, don't feel like you missed out on anything. As a matter of fact, you didn't at all, because you have Monday Night Football, you have Thursday night, and you have the entire month 30% off any NFL monthly package. That is core or max. You're taking 30% off the top of it, right? Out of the gate. You don't need to use the code because the link is in the description. It'll preload that code for you when you check out. Just select whether you want core or monthly under the NFL package. Actually, you don't have to do that. That'll grab it for you right there. And then that promo will be in there, 30% off. This is the last day. The cool thing about having something like this is when you have, and of course, 10% off the yearly or all access package. I always say it, not for everybody, but if you're someone that intends on playing DFS all year long with these tools, this is your smartest move, hands down. It's already discounted. I think it's already like a 19% discount if you, instead of doing monthly, and now you're taking another 10% off of that. So if you think about that, how big the discount is across the entire season, it's massive. Expires today. Links to both of these are down there. Click them. It'll auto load that into your the promo code in, and you won't have to do anything else on top of that. But the coolest part is when you talk about all of the slates that are available, every single slate, like any turbo, afternoon, main, 2-game, prime time, they're all here within the sims and within the tools and the post-contest simulator and the late swap tool. So we got you handled across the board on that. All right, Spags, wide receivers. You're looking at the props on the screen. All of you guys are on the free live odds tool over on OddsShopper. All you need is a free account. If you created one on Tails to follow us and grab our picks, this is there. Look at receiving yards for a second, and I want to know if anything stands out to you, okay? Because you have Adam Thielen here. You have no more you have no, for the first 3 games, Addison. So now we'll take a look at receiving yards, and this is what we've got. Jefferson, 80.5. DJ Moore, 55, 58.5. That's all over the place. Rome is at 48 or 50. And wow, 30. Yeah, okay. So let's say 50.5. Anything here that you like? Or I should say not that you like, but that stands out to you from a DFS perspective relative to their salaries today?
I mean, I guess I'm not surprised to see Jefferson be so far ahead, but I do think there is some risk that he might not get targeted as well. We have seen him have the floor game sometimes against tough defenses. So in a JJ McCarthy debut spot, maybe he gets bracket coverage and they don't force the ball in as much. I think that that's a little bit of an aggressive line. But I would say for DJ Moore, the fact that he is priced 1,600 more than Rome Odunze, I think it's fair relative to the market pricing, but I would take the shots on Odunze just as much for the fact that Odunze should be your primary outside receiver, should be the one getting downfield targets. DJ Moore in a lot of the preseason worked out of the backfield. He was a guy getting targets sometimes as a running back. That's good for PPR, but it might not mean the big play upside. So I think for Odunze, you're taking on some more volatility, but I think a cheaper price tag, I think the upside is going to be pretty similar in terms of just touchdown equity and things like that.
Yeah. I do too, and I think, I'm testing this out here. All right, so doing a little.
You're producing hardcore on the fly here.
I'm trying, man. We'll see what we can do. Go to a little solo shot, full screen on Chris Spags on the strategy.
That's what everybody's dying for. They're like, get more of this guy face on screen.
Well, that's why I did it. Chat was clamoring for it. They said, get your face off the screen, Loughy. Antoine, welcome to Team Stokastic. And Robert Johnson, super chat. Loughy, say bear down for me. Say please, Robert Johnson. Bear down. How about that? No, Robert's been on another level in chat today, so he's excited apparently for this Bears game.
He wants Roshan Johnson at captain, which I don't think is a play that would hit. Usually, shitty captains, guys, never work out. That's Important rule of
It is
Showdown.
often the case. And the other problem you run into is when people do that, they think that they can just go in and essentially jam all of the high price guys. They end up building some of the most duped lineups on the slate, whereas they'd actually think they're building something that's super unique, and they're building something that is just heavily duped, because whenever you throw a kicker in Spags at 3,800 or 4,500, the assumption is you're doing something different. But then the other like 3 or 4% of people that are doing that are building the same lineups with you. And 4% of 100,000 is a decent amount of people.
I mean, honestly, Stokastic has been tweeting out, at least, I don't know if it's going to be every slate, but for the Showdown, which had been the most duped lineups. And it was like I think 3 or 4 lineups on, there was either Friday or Thursday, were like 300 dupes, 500 dupes. And the Sims tool will tell you that if you guys are using the Stokastic Sims, but it's also just like people think they're being clever. And it's like there's another 500 people that are thinking they're clever too, doing the exact same thing.
Exactly what it is. A lot of people doing the same thing. And when I run this, I'm going to show you guys something that I think you'll find interesting, both interesting and helpful. I'm going to go in here and we're going to look at the most duped lineups. Okay. Let's see what the most, we ran a contest of 50,000 here. Okay. So let's see what our most duped lineups are, Spags, and see what we can avoid today, unless we just want to chop a ton. All right. McCarthy, Jones, Thielen, Caleb Williams, DeAndre Swift, and Hawkinson. So amazingly, a no Justin Jefferson lineup. Some of these no Jefferson lineups are the most duped lineups we have on the slate. That seems crazy to me.
I mean, I do like that the lineup at least makes sense, where if you're going to play McCarthy at captain, you want to have 2-3 pass catchers with him. So, and if you don't have Jefferson there, especially, you got to get some of the key secondary pieces, and it does do that. I think that's a tough line for me, because it's like, this actually does seem kind of clever to me. And it's like, no, I'm just a fish who's going to be, and the dupes count's usually a little bit low on Stokastic too, in my experience. So that feels clever, and it's apparently not clever at all.
You know which one looks really nice on paper, but there's no way it's not duped a lot? Jefferson, Aaron Jones, Swift, McCarthy, Olamide Zaccheaus, and TJ Hawkinson. So basically just a mega stack, a 4-2 stack with Minnesota and McCarthy, Jefferson, and Jones, plus DeAndre Swift, clear run back there, and Olamide Zaccheaus. That feels like it's going to be there's no doubt, right?
Yeah, I mean, any of the 50K lineups on Showdown, you do run that risk of it being more likely to be duped than not. But that's one too, where you're jamming in every stud. You're jamming in a guy that people saw some preseason signal from. So yeah, it makes sense why that one would be very duped. Yeah, it's scary to see those dupes, but a good thing to do. Good part of the process is sort by dupes like Loughy's doing right now.
Yeah, man. And look, this isn't to say that you can't ever play duped lineups. Like, let's see if there's any positively simmed ones. But it does mean that oftentimes that's not going to be the case. Like, here's one at 14% simmed ROI, but still, you see this here. Most of these are very negative, especially when you look at the simmed ROI on some of these other ones, right? You've got, what is our top simmed ROI here?
1,000 something, yeah.
Damn. I mean, this one, wow. Caleb Williams, McCarthy, Justin Jefferson, Monangai, Rome Odunze, a little kicker action in this one. So I'll tell you, Spags, if these Monangai lineups are going to sim out that well, and I still get to Caleb, McCarthy, Jefferson, and Odunze and a kicker, maybe I understand why I'm getting more of him. If it's going to build me these type of lineups that are relatively unique.
Yeah, I agree with that. I still think, though, like, to me, I think it reflects the price tag allowing you to get to a bunch of good guys around it. So I don't think it's about Monangai as much as it is that he has slightly more on projection than Roshan, slightly more than Zaccheaus, slightly more than Josh Oliver. If any other cheap guys are active today and end up with a projection closer to lock, same principle there. But I agree with you that, like, Monangai seems useful. I just don't think it's Monangai himself as much as it is that projection, that price tag. And that's sometimes a thing that the Sims show you that you might not catch with the naked eye.
Oh, by the way, I'm 100% in agreement with you. It's what it allows you to get to, not what he is on his own, for sure.
Right. Yeah. He's nothing special. He just, and that happens a lot on Sim stuff where it's like, this just represents the Lego building block you need to kind of make teams that pop the most.
I think Bears defense looks pretty decent as well. $3,400. I just don't know what I mean. Look, Kevin O'Connell is a good offensive coach. We know that, but you never know. You got a quarterback making his NFL debut. It's Soldier Field in Chicago, enemy territory, divisional spot. Chicago, I'll guarantee you, Ben Johnson gave them some bulletin board material saying, "You see this shit, fellas? You're underdogs in your home stadium against a quarterback that's never started before." I'm telling you, dude. There's no way he's not telling them, "Is this what you want? Right? You want to be disrespected on your home field in a divisional spot to open up the season? Maybe they'll do something with it. Who knows?"
I think that's a good narrative. I'm sure the Bears fans would love that if that works out.
I think Robert Johnson will in chat.
He will. He would love it if Roschon Johnson hits as captain, and I think he would accept the Bears just being competent enough today.
Can you? Because I enjoy breaking down these lineups instead of just exposures here, but can you give me who you think are the best wide receivers in this on this slate? Not just from like a raw projection, but who fits the most, who makes the most sense, and who might open up a little bit of space for us. I know you mentioned Zacchaeus, you mentioned Burden potentially taking over as the season goes on. How do you kind of view both of these spots today in difficult matchups?
I'm intrigued by Zacchaeus. I do think, though, that he and Burden, it seems like did not come up at all in the sim. I don't think I got any exposure there. I mean, if you somehow get that right on Burden and he plays more than Zacchaeus, there's nothing in the preseason that indicates that would be the case. I think he'd be a guy to be interesting, but I really think in terms of savings, Zacchaeus is the only one that represents meaningful savings to me. Like Thielen should be okay for PPR at 4,400. I think I'll probably get some exposure there. Not a fun click either. But Zacchaeus is a shot to really pay off in terms of PPR pretty fast. And he was frankly good enough in Washington last year. He and Diami Brown, I think, both had some moments where I was like, oh, these guys are actually, new men in terms of how they're used. And Zacchaeus in particular, compared to how he was on like the Falcons, where he was just an outside kind of Quintez Cephas type doing absolutely nothing out there. Last year was getting some screens. The Bears gave him some kind of low A design targets in the preseason as well. I think he's got a shot to pay off that price tag. So in terms of the guys that aren't really good, I think Zacchaeus is the guy to me at 2K. But, Thielen 4,400 as well. Like they traded for him for a reason. He didn't play with McCarthy before, but part of the reason they traded for him is O'Connell had familiarity with him and he had familiarity with the offense. So I think they're actually a pretty appealing, cheap options to save money.
Sorry. Let me answer this real quick. Josh Lee, are the Sims for 1 month free with the promo code for the core package? No, that's the 30% off. However, you can... This is the biggest no-brainer, especially in the NFL season. You can get the Sims free for a month, the core NFL package for a month. See this link in the description. Tap it if you're on your phone. Click it if you're on your computer. It's the third one down. Join any sportsbook, gets the Stokastic Sims free. You click that. All you have to do is click claim offer on one of these that you're not on yet, whether it's a pick'em site if you're in a non-legal state or a sportsbook. Claim the offer, right? Click claim offer. Sign up. Make a minimum deposit. All of these books, the minimum is either $5 or $10. Then just place a bet or make a lineup. When that's done, literally just email our support. It's the support at Stokastic.com with the screenshots of your first bet, settled bet. So we have proof and of your welcome email from the site and get any sport you want for the entire month free. And Spags, what if I told you that if you weren't on Fanatics, Chalkboard, or BetMGM, and you signed up on all three of them, let's say the combined deposit was $25, which if you win your bets on those, now you're just free rolling anyway. But let's say the combined is $25, 10 for two, 5 for the other. That is 3 months of free NFL core, which means you could take that all the way through November at virtually zero cost. Can't beat that.
That's a sweet deal. I think you get stuff for free, especially things where, you're really not even putting in the same cost that it would be for a membership. It's a pretty nice deal here. And, it works out for the business, works out for you guys. And I think this is actually a thing that's pretty unique to Stokastic. I don't think there are any companies out there doing a thing where you just sign up for a thing you'd be doing anyway. And you actually get free access to a tool that's really valuable. And there's obviously won people ungodly amounts of money in NFL and across every sport.
And I think a lot of people don't know either that all of these books and these sites either offer 100% match bonuses or bonus bet offers when you sign up. So legit no-brainer. It's just free stuff across the board with these Stokastic subs. Anyway, come check it out. If that answers your question, I hope. Any other receivers, or should we talk about the tight end position? Because I'm interested in this tight end position, and I'm a little bit confused by it as well.
I'll just flag that Stokastic has Burden for 0 points, even though I don't think he's in the mix meaningfully. I don't think he's a flat 0, so that I would guess that changes at some point, unless he's inactive, which I don't think is a possibility, but I guess it could be. But Burden, I would say flat 0. I'd watch out for that. But yeah, I think to me, Thielen and Zacchaeus for right now are the ones that are as deep as I would dig down.
Yeah, I was going to say those two guys make the most sense as value plays. I don't know. I mean, every time like an Addison or someone is out, Jalen Naylor kind of pops back onto the scene and you go, hey, maybe it's the Jalen Naylor week. He's viable here. I don't think he's exciting, but he's viable. You know, You're getting him at what is it, 3,600 or something? We're getting 11%, same as we are with Thielen. I think all of these guys kind of fall into the same bucket. What I want to know is where you plan on going at tight end, because also my Tyler Warren exposure, I feel very good about after yesterday's Spags.
No, he looked very good. I thought he'd be kind of getting cannibalized by a bunch of guys being in that same middle part of the field range, and he looked great. Colston Loveland was a massive target earner at Michigan last year, not with J.J. McCarthy, obviously, but still a guy where they built the entire offense out of scheming targets to him. He had like a 40% target per out run rate, one of the highest of any rookie in the last 5 years or so, a rookie tight end. And actually might be any rookie receiver as well. He really does have good work, but Cole Kmet got talked up by Ben Johnson in the offseason being one of the best red zone targets. I do think saving some money and going for a guy that people are less excited for, because talked about a lot yesterday, like the best ball brain, people in the offseason get so excited for rookies. They want to see the guys be great week one. But in reality, Cole Kmet's a guy getting paid like $12 million a year, who's involved, who can actually block and be in the mix well. I think Loveland can hit, but I would say Cole Kmet being so much cheaper, I think would be an interesting play. And for the Vikings, it's Hawkinson. I think really I get playing Oliver a little bit because he's free and he can be out there to block. But I think the Bears one is more to me where just people won't play Cole Kmet and they probably have a credible reason to play him. But I think the Vikings side, it's like it's kind of Hawkinson or bust.
Dude, the fact that Oliver always finds a way to score on these showdown sites, though.
He does.
It's always the no-name tight end, right? Always. You always get one of them in these slates. I love what you said about Kmet. That's what I wanted to ask you about, because I actually bet over on his receiving yards today. It was at 10.5. And I'm under no illusion that Cole Kmet is some like elite tight end that's just going to maintain tight end 1 status and have, 800 plus receiving yards this year. Of course not. I think we both anticipate Loveland taking over as time goes on. But he missed a large portion of camp over the summer, battling injury. Was it his back? I think it was his back, right?
Back or shoulder, something like that.
No, you're right. It was a shoulder. Yep, you're right. They also said that they trust Cole Kmet. I think the only thing I don't like about Kmet is that he's probably overpriced, but I think Colston Loveland's a little bit overpriced today too.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think Loveland, I get the theory here. He obviously went incredibly high in the draft, and having that draft capital is often one of the biggest signifiers of how, players are going to get used in year one. But I think Kmet, again, getting that hype from Ben Johnson in the offseason that he's one of their better red zone threats. The fact as well that Loveland might get some PPR points, but I think that trust in the red zone to be able to show block, to be able to show pass, I think is going to be there more for Kmet. I don't think it's an exciting play. And even last year, without having any real tight end competition, he only had 0.5 red zone targets a game. So it's not like he was kind of a fulcrum point for the red zone targeting. There's opportunity there for him. 1 touchdown, I think, helps him make a lineup. And if Monangai is going to pick up a lot of sim ownership, that means Stokastic users might play Monangai more. Cole Kmet's kind of in a similar price range. And I think 1 touchdown would put him safely ahead of a Monangai or whoever else in that price range pops up. So I like Cole Kmet tonight.
Yeah, I don't hate him. I just wish he was a little bit less expensive given, this guy's $4,000 with a 10.5 receiving prop and a 1.5 receptions prop. That's tough for me to stomach. I also think it's probably a little bit too low, but I don't know what the right projection for this guy is today. Josh Oliver at 1,600, I think deserves a little bit of attention. Durham Smythe, former Dolphins tight end, doesn't look great to me. Just looking over all of our exposures leaves us with the final question, because I'm with you, TJ Hawkinson. The fact that he's only $800 more expensive than Loveland today is pretty striking. Like, I don't think that's right. I do not think those guys. I don't think that's where the pricing should be here. He should be getting more exposure, or we should at the very least. And then like Adunze at 8K. Some of these price points, I think Jones should be essentially the same price as DeAndre Swift. All of it makes sense when you say, oh, look at that. I'm getting, oh, wow, it's swapped. It flipped captain exposures on Swift and Aaron Jones when I reran the Sims. Interesting. Okay. Probably because we're running it with the 50,000. But
yeah, I think that's what the difference was for us in the beginning, because mine were a little bit off from yours. And I will say, I don't think, Loughy does a great job selling. Sell the 50K lineups thing, because I think is the only tool in the space that does that many. And for a showdown, I think that's an appreciable edge to be able to just have a larger pool of lineups and see how they're simmed out.
Yeah, for sure. And because last year it was only 10,000. Now you can sim 50,000 lineups. And with that improvement, you're getting it to resemble the field more than it would have in the past. You're seeing all of those dupes and you're getting better lineups. But also with the NFL core, we bumped up that Sims run as well. So now you can sim more lineups in core than you could have, not 50,000. That's the advantage of having max. But we still bumped that up as well. So good call. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, before we talk quickly just on kicker and defense and get out of here, this is the last day. 30% off, links in the description for any NFL package, core or monthly, for the entirety of the month. Use the link. It'll auto-load the promo in at checkout, or the early bird special. For those of you who plan on playing NFL with the tools all year, it's already 19% discount. Then it's 10 additional percent with this promo. This will be in at checkout as well. You don't have to type it. Both of them are down there. So 2 huge discounts. Kickers and defenses. Spags, look, I don't think there's really a whole lot to discuss here. I will give you my quick thoughts on it because it's easy to me. I think you're going to want to get to kickers in this spot. I could see this being the type of slate, not a particularly high total, a little higher than I expected actually, with 2 good defenses, 2 good pass rushes. Particularly, you're looking at the blitz rate on Minnesota with Flores that could make things difficult for Caleb Williams, unless you're looking at a bunch of defensive touchdowns. I can't help but think that kickers in this spot could be optimal. There's a world where both kickers are optimal on this slate, which is why I'm actually a little surprised that I'm not getting as much of them as I thought.
Yeah, I got about 20 to 25% of the kickers and defenses, and that's usually the range I feel like you're getting the Sims when these players are relatively competent. I agree with you. I like the kickers more. And this is like my brain maybe overthinking things. We did see 2 kickers win yesterday on the showdown, and sometimes it does inflate the ownership a little bit, which would maybe spook me about making like a big part of my portfolio be 2 kickers, but it does hit more often than people realize. Like Loughy mentioned at the beginning of the video, sometimes people put in 1 kicker and they're like, oh, cool, my lineup's unique. But in reality, playing 1 kicker, people have, a lot in their lineups. Sims seem to favor Reichard by a decent amount, 26% exposure, 27 for me in my top 150 compared to 15% for Cairo Santos. But I would say getting those guys pretty close. It would be my goal in whatever lineups I'm putting in tonight. I don't have a lean on kicker. Defense, I would have a lean towards the Vikings, but I think the blitz rate there, Caleb's penchant for, I think, improving might be something that rears his ugly head once or twice, enough to create some value. But I think kickers and defense is very much in play. I just worry with the sim that they might end up being in play for pretty much everybody tonight because they're coming up a healthy amount.
The one reason I think we're not getting as much of them as we have in previous shows or showdowns, because remember, we had Thursday, we had Friday, we had Sunday. Now this is already our 4th showdown show of the season. I'm looking at the salaries and it makes a lot of sense. There's, outside of Justin Jefferson, Spags, and we can end with this because I think it's important from a lineup construction standpoint. We really don't have that many expensive players. You'll see a slate where you've got like Dak and Hurts up there, Barkley, CD Lamb, all of these guys, AJ Brown, not here. You have one guy in the flex who's more than 10,000. Then you have Williams, McCarthy in the 9K range. It's actually pretty easy to build lineups without kickers. So I think you would be getting a lot more of these guys are more expensive, but just being able to get to their raw fantasy point projections at like 7,400 as opposed to 9,500 on another slate, probably going to make a big difference and skew some things today.
Yeah, and two, I would think if Roshan's inactive today and Monangai already projects pretty well for Stokastic, and I
Yes,
presume it's going to be similar around the industry, people are going to push more towards that, and that'll also pull from kickers. So yeah, I think that's a good point.
definitely. Hey, they can follow you at Chris Spags. By the way, what else you got going on throughout the season? I know you're a huge best ball guy because I watched a lot of your streams last year and earlier leading up to this season, thoroughly enjoyed them. What else you got going on aside from you and I doing a bunch of shows this year?
Yeah, I mean, Showdown stuff on my @SplashPlayPod YouTube channel, also on Twitter. I run the videos through there. Monday and Thursday, I do Showdown videos similar to this. I compare Stokastic data, some stuff around the industry, give my hottest takes. The Loughy gets my hottest takes anyway, so it might be a little bit duplicative there. But I'll be going live in about 50 minutes on my @SplashPlayPod channel, so check that out. Similar thing for Fridays and Sunday mornings. I'm just doing the NFL DFS run of things, Loughy, which I make my money off Stokastic affiliate stuff. So it's doing well enough for me. But it's a lot of shit now. If I do shows with you, I'm going to be talking the same thing twice.
What is your biggest hot take for this game? Give me one.
Man, it's tough. Like, because I really want to root for Caleb in this spot. Not even because of the USC thing. I just love Ben Johnson and want him to be right about this guy. I would say JJ McCarthy being less impressive than people realize is probably my biggest take here. I think people have talked themselves into what they saw with Darnold last year being there week one for a rookie coming in. And McCarthy, to me, I mean, he's got a very live arm. He's actually a pretty good athlete, pretty good runner as well. I think he's going to play it like the most ultimate game manager approach. And that's going to go against what a lot of people think of Kevin O'Connell. But I think McCarthy today, I find it hard to believe he gets over 20. Might be hard for him to get over 15. I just don't think he's going to be slinging it. I would love to be pleasantly surprised, but I would be really surprised if he slings it.
I would a bit too. You want to hear mine?
Yeah, I would love to.
DeAndre Swift, optimal captain.
Ooh, I like that.
Give me your optimal captain today. We're obviously just, guessing, but that offensive line, if that with Ben Johnson, his creativity, Swift, we know, is still shifty, improved O-line, also having to combat the blitz against Flores. I could see it. So I'm going to take some shots. What about you? What's your optimal captain here?
Optimal captain for me. I mean, I think it's Odunze. The thing is, Odunze, I'm so worried about him like getting blanked because if the defense just like crushes everything, Odunze is not going to get open downfield. But he is a guy that I think has a opportunity for himself today where he's the only guy that should be doing what he does in this offense, getting downfield. He might be a sacrificial X where he's just running those vertical routes just to kind of clear some space. But if he gets targeted downfield, and I think Ben Johnson's going to try to scheme it, I think he's got a shot to emerge as like the actual wide receiver one of the Bears this year. So I'll say Odunze captain, but I just don't have a real feel for the slate. I think I'm going to let the Sims do a lot of work today and just try to take some different looks.
Me too. And I hope they give me some DeAndre Swift. And if they don't, I hope I'm an idiot because that would be good. Anyway, you guys are the best. Love you all. Appreciate you hanging out. Hit that thumbs up before you go. We got over 600 people this morning watching the Sim Strategy Show. It's a beautiful thing. So do me a favor. Follow Chris. Follow Spags at Chris Spags. It's odd calling you Chris there. I had to correct myself.
I don't know. Nobody does that besides my wife. Like nobody calls me Chris in live.
And follow me at Loughy_D. Our handles are right there. LOUGHY_D to take the football conversation off of YouTube and onto the Twitters. We'll see you back here for the next one live before lock tonight. Bye-bye.